1996. The British SAS, one of the most elite military units in the world, quietly purchases a batch of trucks. Not American, not British, French, from an unknown manufacturer in a small town on France's Atlantic coast. 5 years later, these vehicles will be deployed to Afghanistan, to an operation the world won't learn about until years later. And the strangest part, most people still don't know what this machine is. It's called the ACMAT VLRA. But this machine didn't appear by accident. Behind it is a man who built vehicles for the harshest conditions on Earth. 1948, France. A mechanic named René Legueux opens a small workshop. He doesn't build beautiful machines. He builds ones that have to survive. His clients are oil workers in the Sahara, builders, firefighters, people who need vehicles where there are no roads. Instead of perfect designs, he creates, quote, cocktails of parts from different brands, an axle from Ford, a cab from Citroën, an engine from Hotchkiss. It's not pretty, but it works, and that becomes his main idea. But the real story begins later, when his son, Paul, steps in. Paul Legueux could have simply shut down his father's business. Orders were low, the market was tough, and competitors were stronger. But he saw it differently. In 1964, he moved the company to Saint-Nazaire, a port city on the Atlantic coast, and renamed it ACMAT, Atelier de Construction Mécanique de l'Atlantique. And he asked one simple question. What kind of vehicle do armies need in countries that had just gained independence across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East? Countries with no money for expensive equipment, no highly trained mechanics, no reliable supply chains, but with deserts, swamps, jungles, and almost no proper roads. The answer turned out to be simple. Don't build a complex machine, build a simple one, but make it so it never lets you down. 1967. ACMAT introduces the VLRA, Véhicule de Liaison de Reconnaissance et d'Appui, a liaison, reconnaissance, and support vehicle. The name sounds complicated, but the machine itself is as simple as it gets. Its first and most important feature, a range of up to 1/600 kilometers on a single tank in its maximum configuration. That's not a mistake. It's like driving from Paris to Rome and halfway back. In the desert, where the nearest fuel point might be 1,000 kilometers away, this isn't a number from a brochure. It's a matter of survival. And it's not just fuel. The vehicle also carries its own water supply, around 200 liters, because in the desert, water matters just as much as fuel. But the real idea behind the VLRA isn't range, it's standardization. Paul Legueux designs the entire ACMAT lineup so that most parts are shared across different models, the same engines, axles, gearboxes, structural components, and more importantly, parts made in 1967 can still fit vehicles built decades later. That means the vehicle can be repaired anywhere. One set of spare parts, one mechanic, one training system. For armies operating far from their bases, this wasn't just convenient. It was a solution. And because of that, the VLRA becomes more than just a truck. It becomes a platform. Dozens of different versions are built on the same foundation, from transport and ambulances to command vehicles and armed variants. So what is this machine, technically? Under the hood, a simple Perkins diesel engine. Power is modest by modern standards, but that's the point. This is not a vehicle built for speed. It's built to survive. The total weight of around 5.5 tons. Payload capacity, up to 2.5 tons. Four-wheel drive, a manual gearbox. No complex electronics, only what is truly necessary to keep it moving. But before the VLRA could reach armies around the world, it had to be tested. And it was tested where the best are tested, with the French Foreign Legion. Even before the VLRA appeared, the Legion was already working with ACMAT vehicles. They pushed them through the desert, through sand and heat, without proper service or logistics, and they held up. So when the VLRA arrived, the Legion already knew what to expect. In 1969, they returned to combat operations in Chad, then again and again. The VLRA went everywhere, across dry riverbeds, over sand dunes, through the rocky Tibesti Plateau, and into the tropical swamps in the south of the country, with no proper maintenance, often without spare parts, sometimes with nothing but a jerry can of fuel in the back. And it kept going. The most dramatic moment in the VLRA's story happened far from France. In the mid-1980s, Chad was at war with Libya. The Libyan army was stronger, more equipment, better weapons, and air support. But the Chadian forces had something different. Light trucks with machine guns. Fast, simple, able to appear where no one expected them. Among them were the ACMAT VLRA and the Toyota Land Cruiser. Together, they formed what would later be called the Toyota War, a war of pickup trucks. Small vehicles against tanks. And the small vehicles were winning, thanks to speed, mobility, and the ability to disappear into the desert. In 1987, Chadian forces dealt a series of crushing defeats to the Libyan army and retook the disputed territory. Libya lost hundreds of vehicles. A machine built for the desert proved something simple. In the desert, it fights. But perhaps the most unexpected chapter in the VLRA's story is a British one. 1996. The 22nd Regiment of the SAS purchases 20 ACMAT VLRA 4x4 trucks. Officially, they are described as logistics vehicles for motorized patrols. In reality, the VLRA becomes the mothership, the center of the convoy. That's exactly how it was referred to in SAS documents. It carries fuel, water, ammunition, and allows units to operate hundreds of kilometers away from their base. Before that, the SAS used the Mercedes-Benz Unimog, but they made a different choice. The reason is simple. The VLRA is lighter, more maneuverable, and just as effective. In 2001, during Operation Trent in Afghanistan, these trucks moved in convoy alongside Land Rovers and Kawasaki motorcycles, hundreds of kilometers across the Registan Desert toward an Al-Qaeda base. The world would only learn about the operation years later, and about the trucks even later. The only known images of VLRA vehicles in SAS service were published by the French magazine Raids in 2007. Paul Legu's philosophy was simple: reliability, simplicity, and the ability to repair the machine anywhere. No unnecessary technology, no complex systems that fail first. That's why the ACMAT VLRA spread across the world, over 12,000 vehicles in more than 50 countries. Most of them operated where proper infrastructure simply didn't exist. After Paul Legu's death, the company went through difficult times, but it didn't disappear. These vehicles are still being produced today, now under a brand that is part of the Volvo Group. And even in modern versions, they follow the same idea: simple, reliable, and rugged. This is not the fastest machine, not the most advanced, but it's a machine that never puts you in a situation where you need help. It just keeps going, no matter where, across the Sahara, through the mountains of Afghanistan, into the jungles of Chad. And when the SAS, a unit that can choose any vehicle in the world, chooses this one, it says more than any advertisement ever could. Paul Legu didn't set out to build a legend. He built a tool, but sometimes the best tool becomes a legend. So what unknown machine would you like to see next? Let me know in the comments and subscribe so you don't miss the next story.